What is up guys, and welcome back to another YouTube tutorial. My name is Moabi, and today I'm going to show you guys how to create a share folder with advanced options where users can only interact with the subfolders and the subfiles and not the main share folder. So before we start, I just want to show you guys the changes that I've made to my Active Directory. So I'm going to click on the Start menu, then select the Server Manager, and in my Server Manager, I'm going to click on Tools. And under Tools, I'm going to click on Active Directory Users and Computers. Once the Active Directory Users and Computers window opens up, I'm going to click on the Home Admins Organizational Unit. So I created this Home Admins Organizational Unit so that I can organize my home users and my home groups on my domain. So under Home Admins, you will note that I have 3 organizational units, which are Home Groups, Home Users, and Technicians. And I have 1 guest account. And in this organizational unit, I've created the following groups: Members, Technicians Group, and Temp Users Group. I went ahead and added members to these groups. So if I click on Members and then right click, then select Properties, and then under Members, you will see the members that are part of this group, which is User C and User D. And if I click on the Member Of tab, you will note that this group is not part of any group on our domain. So I'm going to click OK. Moving on from Members, let's select our Technicians group and then right click, then select Properties. And under Properties, let's select Members tab. And you will note that I have 3 members in this group, which is Administrator, Home Admin, and Technician. These are the members of the Technicians group. That means any user that is part of this Technicians group will have Administrator permissions and also Domain Admins permissions. So now I'm going to click on OK. And then I'm going to select my last group, which is the Temp Users group, and then I'm going to right click, then select Properties. Under Properties, I'm going to select Members. And as you can see, I have 2 members, which is User A and User B. And if I click on Member Of, this group is not part of any group on our Active Directory. So I'm going to click on OK. And just to explain, I didn't add the Members group and a Temp Users group to any group on our domain. The reason is I want to show you how to take control of certain folders and files on your share server using these different groups. So these are the groups that I'm going to be using for this demonstration. And only the Technicians group is the only group that is part of other groups such as Administrators and Domain Admins, so that any user that is part of this Technicians group can have Administrator permissions. So now I'm going to click on my Home Users Organizational Unit. And in this organizational unit, you will see all the users that I've created for this demonstration. I haven't set any permissions for these users. I only added these users to their respective groups. So if I click on User A and then right click, then select Properties. And under Properties, I'm going to click on Member Of. Under the Member Of tab, you will see Domain Users and Temp Users group. These are the only 2 groups that I want this user to be in. The Domain Users group is a built-in group that was created when we were installing our Active Directory. That means any user that joins our domain will be added to this group. And the Temp Users group is my custom group that I'm going to use for my share folder. So I'm going to click OK. And then select User B, right click on User B, and then select Properties. And under Properties, I'm going to click on the Member Of tab. And you will note that this user is also part of the Domain Users group and also the Temp Users group. I'm going to click OK. And now I'm going to select User C. So let's right click and then select Properties. And under Properties, I'm going to do the same thing and click on Member Of tab. And now under Member Of, you will note that this User C is part of the Domain Users group and also the Members group. So I'm going to press OK. And let's have a look at our User D. Right click and then select Properties. Then click on Member Of tab. And you will note that this user is also part of the Domain Users group and also the Members group. So I'm going to press OK. And so far, all my users have been assigned to specific groups, such as User A and User B are part of the Temp Users group, and User C and User D are part of the Members group. Please note, my Members group and my Temp Users group are not assigned any special permissions because I want to show you how to set permissions for these groups so that these users that are assigned under those groups can inherit those permissions. So I'm going to move on and click on the Technicians Organizational Unit. Under this OU, you will note that I have two user accounts, which is Home Admin and Technician. Let's click on Home Admin, right click, and then select Properties. And under Properties, I want us to select the Member of tab. And if you take note, this user is part of the domain users and also the Technicians group. Remember, the Technicians group is part of the Administrators group and also Domain Admins group. So that means my Home Admin user account will have administrator permissions. So I'm going to click on OK. And now I'm going to select Technician and then right click on it, then select Properties. And under Properties, I'm also going to select Member of tab. This user is also part of the Domain Users group and also Technicians group. So I'm going to press OK. So now that I've showed you guys the changes that I've made to my Active Directory, let's continue with the video to create a share folder. So I'm going to close this Active Directory users and computers and then open your Server Manager. In my case, my Server Manager is already open. If yours is not open, just click on the Start menu and then select Server Manager from your tiles or from your list. Okay guys, once you're in your Server Manager, I want you guys to note that in this demonstration, I won't be using the File Explorer to create the share folder. Instead, I will be using the File and Storage Services role. So on your far left, click on your File and Storage Services role. And under the File and Storage Services role, let's click on Shares. Now under Shares, you will see Home DC with the number 3 next to it. This is because I've only shared 3 folders on my server. The NetLogon folder and the sysvol folder were created for me by default the moment I was installing my Active Directory. And the share folder, everyone, is a folder that I created using the File Explorer in my previous video. So in this video, I won't be using the File Explorer to create the share folder, but I will be using the File and Storage Services role to create the new share folder. Now under Shares, all you have to do is click on Tasks, then select New Share. A new share wizard window opens up, and in this window, we have to select a profile for this share. If you take a look below, you will see File Share Profile. And underneath File Share Profile, you will see SMB Share Quick, SMB Share Advanced, SMB Share Applications, NFS Share Quick, and also NFS Share Advanced. For this tutorial, we are only focusing on the SMB Share Quick because I want us to create a basic share file with advanced permissions for our users and our groups. So select SMB Share Quick and then click on Next. And in this window, we need to select the server and path for this share. So if you take a look below, you will see my Home DC server. And if you go down, you will see Share Location. Under Share Location, we have 2 options. Either to share this file using a volume or else type a custom path. We are going to select Type a Custom Path. I do not have a path currently for my share folder, so I need to click on Browse. And under Browse, we need to decide the location where we want to create this share folder. So I want to create this share file on my C drive where my Windows Server 2019 operating system is installed. So I'm going to click my C drive, then select the option New Folder. And I'm going to name my folder Advanced Shared Folder. Once you're done typing your folder name, press Enter, then click on the button Select Folder. And now, under Type a Custom Path, you will see the path to our share folder, which is under our C drive. So let's click on Next. And now, we need to specify a share name. So for this demonstration, I'm not going to change the share name. I'm going to leave it as is. And if you take a look below, you will see the local path to our share folder. And if you take a look below, you will see Remote Path to Share, which is our server name together with our share folder name. So I'm going to leave everything as default and then click on Next. Now we need to configure the share settings. And in this window, there are a couple of options that we need to configure, such as the Enable Access-Based Enumeration option. So I'm going to check the box. The reason why we need to enable this option is because it displays only the files and folders that a user has permissions to access. So if a user or a group doesn't have permissions to read the contents of this share folder, they will not be allowed to see this share folder. And if you go down, you will note that Allow Caching of Share has been enabled for us automatically. The reason for this is that caching makes the contents of this share folder available to offline users. And the last option, which is encrypt data access, we are not going to configure this option because I don't want to encrypt the share folder for our users. I want our users to have access to this share folder whenever they need to access this share folder. So make sure to select the enable access based enumeration and also make sure the allow caching of share is also enabled. Now let's click next. And in this window, we need to specify permissions to control access. We are going to change a couple of options so that our users and groups can have the permissions that we want to assign to them. So let's click on customize permissions. And under customize permissions, you will note that the owner of this group is set to administrators. The reason for this is because I'm using my domain administrator account, and this domain administrator account is part of the administrators group. So for this demonstration, I am not going to change the owner of this group because once I change the owner of this group and set it to a different group, then this administrator account will not have access to modify or control this share folder. So I'm going to leave the administrators group as the owner. And now let's have a look at our permission entries. In this window, let's click on the button Disable Inheritance. And once you click Disable Inheritance, you will get a warning that says you are about to block inheritance to this object, which means that permissions inherited from the parent object will no longer be applied to this object. So I want you guys to click on the button Convert Inherited Permissions into Explicit Permissions on this object. So now that I've disabled the inheritance, let's remove a couple of objects from the permissions entry. So I'm going to remove the creator owner group and also the users group. And again, the users group, I'm going to remove it. And I'm only going to leave the system group and administrators group. Once you have only these two groups in your permissions entries, I want us to click on the button Add, so that now we can add our own groups that we created in our Active Directory to this share folder. So let's click on Select the Principal. And once you click Select the Principal, you will see the Select User, Computer, Service Account or Group window. And in this window, we need to type in the name of our group. So I'm going to type in Technician. And if I press Check Names, the Active Directory will look for this Technicians group from my domain. So I'm going to press Check Names. And because I have two objects with the name Technician, it found the user Technician and also the group Technicians group. So I want you guys to select your group, and in my case, I'm going to select my Technicians group. Click OK, then click OK. Once you click OK, the principal will now be changed to Technicians group. And underneath the principal, you will see Type, and next to that, there's an option that says Allow. I'm going to leave this Allow button as it is because I want the Technicians group to have access to the share folder. And underneath Type, you will see Applies to. And for this option, if you click on the drop-down menu, you want to leave this option as it is because you want the Technicians group to have access to this folder, subfolders, and files. So I'm going to leave it as it is. And now let's have a look at our basic permissions. By default, once I add a group to a share folder, they will have the following permissions: Read and Execute, List Folder Contents, and Read. So for this demonstration, I want the Technicians group to have full control of the folder. So I'm going to check the box Full Control. And then if you click on Show Advanced Permissions, now you will see more options to select from. So I'm going to leave the full control checked. That will select all the permissions in this permissions window. Then click OK. Now I need to enter my members group and also my temp users group because I want to allow the users in those groups to interact only with the subfolders of the share folder. So let's click on the button Add. And under Add, let's click on Select the Principal. A Select User, Computer, Service Account or Group window pops up. And in this window, we need to type in the name of our group. So I'm going to enter Temp. And then I'm going to click on Check Names. The Active Directory will go ahead and look for the word temp in my domain. And it did find my temp users group. So I'm going to click OK. And for the type, I'm going to leave it as default, which is Allow. And just below Type, you will see the option Applies to. I'm also going to leave this option as default. For the basic permissions, I'm also going to leave these permissions as default. I'm not going to add any permissions to this temp users group. I'm going to press the button OK. Now let's click on the button Add again. And let's click on Select the Principal. Then type in your group name. Then click Check Names. Once you see a line underneath your group name, that means Active Directory found your group. So I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to leave everything as default, just like I did with the temp users group. So I'm not going to change anything, and I'm going to click on the button OK. So now, to explain what I just did, let's have a look at the 3 groups that I just added to these permission entries. I added the technicians group, and I also gave it full control of this share folder. The reason is I want any user that is part of the technicians group to have full access to the share folder. And if you take a look at the temp users group and also the members group, I didn't change any permissions for these groups. The reason is I want these groups to be able to list only the folder contents of our share folder. But the idea is that I want these users to be able to interact and create files and folders in the subfolders of this advanced shared folder. So the temp users group and members will not be allowed to make any changes on our advanced shared folder. Now let's click on the tab Share. So for now, under the Share tab, let's leave everything as default because I will be creating special permissions for groups and users to be able to access subfolders of the advanced shared folder. So I'm going to click on the button Apply and then click OK. Now that my groups and permissions have been added, I'm going to click on the button Next. And in this window, we see the Confirm selections. This is just a summary of the options that you have selected. And now I'm going to click the button Create. And under Results, we see the share was successfully created. So now, this means that this share folder was created successfully. I'm going to click on the button Close. And now if you look under Shares, you will see 4 folders now because our advanced share folder has now been added to the shares. So let's minimize our server manager. I want us to go to our share folder and create our subfolders. So let's click on File Explorer, then click this PC. I created my share folder under my local disk C. And right at the top, I can see Advanced Shared Folder. So I'm going to open this folder. And now I'm going to create 3 folders under this share folder. To create a new folder, all you have to do is click on the New Folder button or right-click anywhere on the folder directory, then select New and then select Folder. I'm going to name this folder Softwares. Press Enter. Let's create another folder. I'm going to click the button New Folder. And I'm going to name this folder General. Press Enter. And now I'm going to create the last folder, and I'm going to name this folder Internal Users Only. Okay guys, starting with the General folder, I'm going to highlight the folder, then click Properties. And under Properties, I'm going to click on the Security tab. Then under the Security tab, you will see group or usernames that have access to the General folder. So we are going to click on the button Advanced. And under the Advanced Security Settings for the General folder, we are going to allow our temp user group and also our members group the right permissions. So firstly, click on Disable Inheritance. And in the Block Inheritance window, we need to click the button Convert Inherited Permissions into Explicit Permissions on this object. So I'm going to select that option. And now let's click on our temp user again, then click Edit. And once you click Edit, you will see the permission entry for General. So in this window, we need to change the permissions for the temp users group to be able to write into this folder. So I'm going to click on the button Show Advanced Permissions. And from the list of options, we are going to enable Create Files or Write Data. We have to enable the permission Create Folders or Append Data, Write Attributes, and lastly, Write Extended Attributes. This means that all the users in the temp users group will be able to write data into this General folder. They won't be able to make any changes to the share folder, Advanced Shared folder, but they can make changes to the General subfolder because we have given the temp users group permissions to write. So let's click on OK. And now let's select Members and then click Edit. Okay guys, let's repeat the same steps. So under Basic Permissions, click the button Show Advanced Permissions. And then enable the Create Files or Write Data option, enable the Create Folders or Append Data, and then enable the Write Attributes, and lastly, enable the Write Extended Attributes. If you want to, you can also enable the Delete Subfolders and Files permission for this members group, so that all the members in this members group can be able to delete subfolders and files. So I'm going to select this delete subfolders and files. And once I'm done, the only options that I didn't select is the delete option, the change permission, and the take ownership permission. So I'm going to click OK. And now I'm going to click on apply. The members group and the test users group can be able to write files into the general folder, but all the users in the members group can be able to delete subfolders and files. And now before we go, I want us to add one more group to this permission entries, which is our domain users. So let's click on the button add, then click select the principal. And under select principal, we are going to search for domain users. So I'm going to type in domain and then click on the button check names. And under check names, we need to select domain users. So I'm going to select that and then click OK. Click OK. And for the permissions, I'm not going to change any permissions. So I'm going to leave everything as default and then click OK. So guys, I want you to take note the difference between permissions tab and the share tab. The share tab just means that this folder will be shared to everyone, but under permissions, this is where we give control to groups and users on our domain. So if you click on share, don't be alarmed when you see everyone with full control. This is just a precaution to allow everyone to be able to see the folder. But the permissions is what drives and controls the folder. So let's click apply, then click OK. Click OK. Okay guys, now that we have set permissions for our general folder, now we need to set permissions for our internal users only folder. So I'm going to select the folder and then right click on the folder, then select properties. And under properties, let's click on security tab. And in the security window, let's do the same thing as we did in our general folder. So click on advanced. And now in the advanced security settings for internal users only, we need to disable inheritance. So click the button disable inheritance and then click the option convert inherited permissions into explicit permissions on this object. This will disable any inheritance settings for this folder. And now under permission entries, we need to remove the temp users group from the list. So click the temp users group and then click remove. The reason is I don't want to allow temp users group and its users the permissions to access the internal users only folder because this folder is intended for our members group in our domain. So I'm going to click on the members group and then click edit. And then I'm going to click on the show advanced permissions so that we can see the permissions of the members group for this internal users only folder. And for the members permissions, I'm going to leave the default settings as they are. The reason is I want all the users in the members group to only be able to read the contents of the internal users only folder. So I'm going to leave everything as default. I'm not going to assign the right permissions to the members group. So I'm going to click OK. Only the groups or users that are under permission entry will have access to this folder based on the permissions that we have applied on the groups or the users. So let's click apply and then click OK. Click OK. And now for the last folder, which is our softwares folder, let's click on the folder, then right click the folder and then select properties. And under properties, let's click on the security tab and then select advanced. And once the advanced security settings for softwares folder opens up, now we need to click on the button that says disable inheritance again, then click convert inherited permissions into explicit permissions on this object. And now let's remove our temp users group and also our members group. For this folder, we are only going to leave our system group, administrators group, and also technicians group. So all these three groups have full control over the softwares folder. So I'm going to click apply and then click OK. And then click OK again. And now we have set the permissions for our subfolders for our advanced shared folder. So now I want to jump into my Windows 10 computer so that I can show you the changes that have taken place in our advanced share folder and its subfolders. Please note, I will be using different user accounts so that we can see the different settings and the different permissions that we have set for our subfolders. Okay guys, now I'm going to be using my home VM1 to log in with different accounts to see the changes that take place on our share folder. So if I click on my start menu, you will see the user account that I'm currently logged in as is user A. So let's right click on the start menu, then click the button run. And under run, we need to type in the share server name or the share server IP address. So to do that, all you have to do is type in 2 backward slashes followed by the IP address of your share server. Then click OK. And because this computer is part of the domain, it doesn't need to enter any network credentials to access the share folder. All resources are shared to all domain joined clients, and this computer is part of the domain. So now I'm going to click on the advanced shared folder. And once I click advanced shared folder, I will only see all the files that are shared to this user or to the group that this user is part of. So this user is user A, and this user is part of the group temp users group. And if you remember, in the shared folder, I only added the temp users group to the general folder, and I also allowed the temp users group to be able to write into the general folder. So I'm going to open the general folder. So now that I'm in the general folder, I want to see if it is possible to write into this folder. So I'm going to right click anywhere in the folder and then select the option New. And now select Folder. So user A is able to create a folder inside the general folder. Let's see if we can create a text document. So right click anywhere in the folder and then click New. Then select Text Document. And again, user A is able to create a folder and a file inside the general subfolder. Let's see if we can delete these files from the general folder. Remember, only the members group, administrators, and technicians group are allowed to delete any files or folders within this general folder. So I'm going to try and delete the new folder. So I'm going to highlight the folder and then right click on the folder, then select the option Delete. You will get a pop-up window with the following warning that says, are you sure you want to permanently delete this folder? I'm going to click on Yes. And now we get a folder access denied window. And in this window, we see a message that says, you need permissions to perform this action. The reason is that the temp users group, I didn't allow this group to have the permission to delete files or folders within this general folder. So I'm going to click Cancel. And I'm going to try to do the same thing with the text document. I'm going to select the document and then right click, then click Delete. And I get a warning that says, are you sure you want to permanently delete these items? So I'm going to click the option Yes. And again, we need permissions to perform this action. And the reason for this, we didn't enable the delete permission in the securities window for the temp users group. So I'm going to click Cancel. And now I'm going to click the back button to go back to the root folder of the advanced shared folder. And in this folder, if you remember, users are not allowed to create any folders within this advanced shared folder. So I'm going to right click on the folder and then select the option New and then select Folder, and I get a destination folder access denied. The reason for this is because I denied access to all users except administrators and technicians. So this worked fine for our user A. Now I'm going to skip user B because the permissions are basically similar to user A. And now I'm going to use the user account user C to see what files and folders do I get once I enter the advanced shared folder. Remember, user A and user B were part of the temp users group, and user C and user D were part of the members group. So these two groups have different permissions allowed on the advanced shared folder. So I'm going to click on Cancel, and now I'm going to click the Start menu, then click on the user account, and then click Sign Out. So now I'm going to use the user account user C so that we can see what files and folders do we get under our advanced shared folder. Let's click on the Start menu and then select the user. As you can see, the user has changed from user A to user C. Now let's right click on our Start menu and then click on Run. We need to enter the IP address of the share server or the server name where we are sharing our files. So remember, 2 backward slashes followed by the IP address or the server name. So this time I'm going to use the server name to access the share folder. So now I'm going to click on Advanced Shared Folder And now user C is able to see the general folder and also internal users only. Remember, these two folders are the only folders where I allowed the members group to have access in. So under general, the members group can be able to delete files and folders within the subfolder. So firstly, I want us to create a new folder in this directory. So I'm going to select the option New Folder. And yes, I can create a folder. Now click on New Item and then select Text Document. So we are able to create files and folders within this directory using the user account user C, because this user is part of the members group and the members group has read, write and delete permissions for this general folder. So now let's try and delete these files from the general folder using our user C account. So I'm going to click on the New Text Document 2 and then click the option Delete. Now we get a warning that says, are you sure you want to permanently delete this file? I'm going to click Yes. And as you can see, the user C account is able to delete files from this general folder. Now let's see if we can delete the folder. So click on the folder 2 and then click the button Delete. Then click Yes to confirm that you are sure. And yes, user C is able to delete files and folders from the general folder because we gave our members group permissions to delete, write and read contents of the general subfolder. Now let's go back into our advanced shared folder. And now let's access our internal users only. Remember, for this folder, I only allowed the members group to only be able to read the contents of this subfolder. They can't add or modify the files within this subfolder. So let's go ahead and try and create a new folder. Click on the button and we get the destination folder access denied. So I'm going to click Cancel. And now let's try and create a new item in this folder. So I'm going to click New Item and then select Text Document. And again, I get a destination folder access denied. So far, the permissions I've set are working correctly. So I'm going to click on the button Cancel. And now let's see if this user C is able to create a folder or a file in our advanced shared folder. So click on Back. I'm going to click on New Folder. And now we get the destination folder access denied. The reason for this is because I didn't allow my members group to be able to edit or modify any folders or files within the advanced shared folder. Remember, my groups are only allowed to make changes within the subfolders and not the main share folder. So far, everything is working according to plan. I'm going to click Cancel. So before I switch to another account, I just want to show you something within the general folder using our user account user C. So I'm going to open the general folder and then open the text document. And now I'm going to modify the text document and then save it and see if our user C is able to save or modify this file. So I'm going to type in Hello World and then click on File, then click Save. Now let's close this text document. Let's reopen this text document again. So guys, as you can see, our users in our members group are able to create files and folders within the general folder. They are only allowed to read the contents within the internal users only folder, but they can't make changes to files and folders within the internal users only folder. So now I'm going to log off this account. I'm going to click the Start menu and then select the user account and then click on Sign Out. And now I'm going to use the Home Admin account in order to access the share folder. I want to see the changes of the permissions that have been set for the technician group. So once the account loads up, I'm going to right click on the Start menu and then click on Run. In my case, my server IP address is already on the Run command, so I'm going to click OK. In your case, you will have to type in the IP address of your share server. So click OK once you're done. And now with the technician account, let's see what folders we have under Advanced Shared folder. So I'm going to open the folder. Because I'm using the Home Admin user account, this user account is part of the technicians group. So this means that this user has access to all of these folders. Now, let's see what happens when we open our general folder. And let's try to create a folder within this general folder. Yes, I am able to create a folder. So now, let's right click anywhere on our folder, then select the option New, and then select Text Document. And as you can see, we are allowed to create files and folders within the general folder. Now, let's highlight New Folder 2 and New Text Document 2 and see if we can delete this folder and file. So I'm going to click on Delete. A Delete Multiple Items window pops up with a warning that says, "Are you sure you want to permanently delete these 2 items?" I'm going to select the option Yes. And as you can see, my home admin account is able to delete, add folders within the general folder. Now let's see if we can edit this text document. So open the text document, and then I'm going to delete the word world. And then I'm going to click on File, and then let's see if we can save this file. Click on Save, and then close the notepad. Now open the notepad and see if our changes have taken place. Our users in our technicians group are able to create, delete, and modify files within our general folder. So I'm going to close this notepad. And now going back to our advanced shared folder, I'm going to select the internal users only folder. And in this folder, let's see if we can create a new folder. Yes, we can create a new folder, and let's see if we can create a new item. So click on New Item and then select Text Document. And again, we are allowed to create files within the internal users only folder. The reason is that we gave full control to our technicians group. So this means that my home admin user account is able to create, delete, and also modify folders within the internal users only folder. So I'm going to click on Back. And now let's open the folder Softwares. Let's see if we can create a new folder within Softwares. So click on New Folder. And yes, we can create a new folder. Now let's click on New Item. And then select Text Document. And again, my home admin account is able to create a folder and a file. Let's edit this text document by adding my name. And then click on File, then Save. I'm going to close this and then open the notepad again. And as you can see, this user account is able to make changes to all the subfolders within the advanced shared folder. Now let's see if this user account is able to create subfolders within our advanced shared folder. So I'm going to close that and then click on Back. And now in the advanced shared folder, I'm going to click on the New Folder button and see if this home admin user is able to create a subfolder within our advanced shared folder. Click on New Folder, and as you can see, this user account is able to create folders in our advanced shared folder because I allowed the technicians group permissions to write, read, and also modify any files and folders within our advanced shared folder. So for now, I'm going to delete this folder. Click on Yes. And so far, our home admin user account is able to make changes within our advanced shared folder because it is part of the technicians group which has access to all folders within the advanced shared folder, including the advanced shared folder itself. So guys, I know this video is a bit long, so feel free to go back in time and try out the solution for yourself. If you have any questions or suggestions, please leave them in the comment section below and I will get back to you guys. So for now, I hope you enjoyed the video. Click on the like button, leave a comment in the comment section below, share the video with a friend or two, and lastly, click on the subscribe button for more. And I will see you guys on the next video. And remember, each one teach one.